Imagine standing completely alone, no allies, no supporters, no tribe behind you, just you, the truth in your heart, and in front of you an entire kingdom worshipping idols, bowing to a tyrant who claims, "I give life and I take life." Most people would break. Most people would stay silent. Most people would compromise, but one young man didn't. One young man stood tall. One young man spoke truth to unimaginable power. One young man changed history forever. This is the story of Prophet Ibrahim as the man who shattered idols, challenged a king, walked into fire and walked out without a scratch. The story of the man whose heart knew that Allah is greater than any fire, any king, any threat, and any fear. And this is the story you need today. Unshakable Tawheed is the foundation upon which Prophet Ibrahim has built his entire life. It was not just a belief he carried in his heart. It was a reality he lived, breathed, and defended, regardless of the consequences. From a young age, he looked around at his people worshipping idols and felt a deep restlessness. Something within him refused to accept that creation could ever be equal to the Creator. He questioned, he reflected, he observed the stars, the moon, the sun, each rising, setting, fading. Nothing created could ever be God. His heart remained firm on one truth: nothing is worthy of worship except Allah. This certainty was not inherited. It was discovered through sincere reflection and strengthened through divine guidance. Ibrahim has learned that Tawheed is not just saying La ilaha illallah. It is understanding it, embodying it, and standing for it even when the entire world stands against you. When he challenged his father, his people, and the king, it wasn't rebellion, it was clarity. He saw the truth with such purity that falsehood became unbearable. The idols his people revered were powerless, unable to hear, speak, benefit, or protect. He realized that relying on them was not only misguided but humiliating for a human being created with intellect and dignity. His Tawheed was so firm that even when threatened, mocked, rejected, and eventually thrown into a fire, his heart did not tremble. Tawheed gave him moral strength, emotional resilience, and spiritual confidence. He understood that if Allah is with you, nothing can harm you. If Allah supports you, no force on earth can defeat you. When the fire blazed and the ropes tightened around his hands, he did not panic or plead for mercy from the tyrants. Instead, he placed complete trust in Allah. His famous declaration, "Allah is sufficient for me, and He is the best disposer of affairs," shows the depth of Tawheed rooted in his soul. This unwavering belief transformed a young, lonely man into the father of nations and the leader of the righteous. Allah elevated him because Tawheed elevates the heart above fear, above people, above circumstances, and above every false god, whether it is an idol, a desire, or a human being. When Tawheed becomes unshakable, everything else becomes insignificant. This was the secret behind Ibrahim's strength. He worshipped one Lord, feared one Lord, trusted one Lord, and walked through life with the conviction that only Allah controls his destiny. And with that conviction, miracles unfolded. Courage to challenge falsehood is one of the most striking qualities in the story of Prophet Ibrahim as. It is easy to speak the truth when everyone agrees with you, but it takes a rare kind of bravery to confront an entire society when you are the only one who sees clearly. Ibrahim has lived in a community where idol worship was not just a habit. It was a culture, a tradition, a blind loyalty passed from generation to generation. Questioning it was unthinkable, defying it was dangerous, and standing against it was seen as rebellion. Yet Ibrahim, as with calm confidence, chose to rise above fear and expose the falsehood they all clung to. His courage did not come from ego or pride, it came from clarity of heart. He could not accept that people bowed to objects they carved with their own hands. He could not tolerate injustice disguised as tradition. So he asked the questions no one dared to ask. Why do you worship what cannot benefit you? Why do you turn to creations instead of the Creator? These questions shook the foundations of their beliefs, and his people were not ready for the truth. But Ibrahim has continued, not because he wanted conflict, but because he wanted them to wake up. His courage reached its peak when he broke the idols to expose their powerlessness. This act was not an attack on culture, It was a demonstration meant to open their minds. He left the biggest idol untouched, placing the axe around its neck, forcing his people to confront reality. When they asked him who broke the idols, his simple response, "Ask the big one," destroyed decades of illusions with a single sentence. That is what bravery rooted in truth looks like: fearless, wise, and purposeful. Facing Namrood, the tyrant king, required even greater courage. Namrood represented political power, military strength, and societal control. Most people would have bowed out of fear, but Ibrahim has stood tall, challenging his false claims of divinity. When Namrood arrogantly said, "I give life and death," Ibrahim has responded with logic that cornered him completely. He exposed the hollowness of a king who pretended to be God. True courage is not loud or violent, it's firm, principled, and rooted in truth. Ibrahim has proved that when faith strengthens the heart, no falsehood, no matter how powerful, can intimidate a believer. His example teaches that standing up for truth may be lonely, may be risky, and may be costly, but it is always worth it because truth liberates, and falsehood collapses the moment it is challenged with clarity and conviction. Among the most powerful moments in the life of Prophet Ibrahim, as is the scene where he is thrown into a massive fire, yet his heart remains steady, peaceful, and anchored in absolute trust in Allah. This was not a small fire created by a few people. It was an enormous blaze built by an entire nation, so fiercely hot that birds flying above it would drop from the sky. The people gathered with excitement, expecting to witness the destruction of a man who dared to challenge their traditions. But Ibrahim, as did not see flames, he saw an opportunity to surrender to Allah completely. His faith was so strong that fear could not enter his heart. Before being launched into the fire by a catapult, he uttered one of the most powerful declarations in the history of faith. Allah is sufficient for me, and He is the best disposer of affairs. These words did not just come from his tongue. They came from the deepest part of his heart. They reflected a lifetime of recognizing Allah as the only source of help, protection, and control. In that moment, Ibrahim has demonstrated what true reliance on Allah looks like. Faith is not tested in moments of comfort. It is tested when the flames of hardship surround you, when people abandon you, when everything seems impossible. And what happened next was a miracle that has inspired believers for centuries. Allah did not just stop the fire, He spoke directly to it. "O fire, be coolness and peace upon Ibrahim." The flames obeyed. The fire transformed from a weapon of destruction into a place of comfort. The very thing designed to harm him became a source of safety. This shows that when Allah is on your side, even the laws of nature become servants of His will. When you place your trust in Him, the things meant to break you end up strengthening you. This moment teaches that faith is not about the absence of trials. It is about the presence of certainty in the one who controls those trials. Ibrahim did not know how Allah would save him, but he knew Allah would save him. He didn't need details, he only needed trust, and Allah never disappoints those who rely on Him. Every believer faces their own fire, emotional struggles, painful losses, pressure from society, difficulties that feel overwhelming. The story of Ibrahim reminds us that if your heart remains firm, your tongue remains truthful, and your trust remains unshaken, Allah will turn the heat of your trials into the coolness of relief. Faith does not remove the fire, it transforms it. The life of Prophet Ibrahim teaches us that greatness is not built in moments of comfort. It is shaped in the furnace of trials. Every hardship he faced was not a setback, but a stepping stone toward a legacy that would echo through centuries. He did not become the father of prophets by living an easy life. He became one through tests that most people would crumble under. From childhood, he stood alone against a nation steeped in idolatry. He was rejected by his own people, threatened by the authorities, and abandoned by those closest to him. Yet every trial only strengthened him. Where others saw obstacles, Ibrahim saw opportunities to draw closer to Allah. One of the most painful trials was the emotional distance from his father. The man who raised him emotionally and physically opposed him spiritually. Instead of responding with anger, Ibrahim has responded with wisdom and compassion. That is a test of emotional maturity few can handle. Another trial was the command to leave his wife Hajar as an infant son Ismail as in the barren desert of Makkah. Imagine the heartbreak of placing your loved ones in a place with no visible water, no shade, and no people, trusting that Allah would care for them. Many would question, panic, or beg for an alternative. But Ibrahim has walked away with certainty in Allah's plan, and from that trial came the well of Zamzam, the rise of Makkah, and the foundations of a global sanctuary millions visit today. Then came the ultimate test, the command to sacrifice his beloved son. This was not a test of cruelty, it was a test of submission. After years of longing for a child, he was asked to give him up for Allah. Yet both father and son displayed unimaginable calmness and trust. Their willingness to surrender allowed Allah to replace the sacrifice with a ram and immortalize their story as a symbol of devotion. Every one of these trials built Ibrahim's legacy. They purified his heart, strengthened his soul, and elevated his status. Through every hardship, he demonstrated patience, trust, and obedience. His story proves that trials are not punishments, they are preparations. They don't weaken a believer, they refine them. They don't stop your journey, they shape your destiny. Ibrahim teaches us that when your heart stays connected to Allah during trials, the legacy you leave behind becomes timeless. The encounter between Prophet Ibrahim and Namrood is one of the most powerful demonstrations of how divine truth effortlessly crushes human delusion. Namrood was not just any king, he was a man intoxicated by power, blinded by authority, and drowned in arrogance. His wealth, kingdom, and influence created an illusion that he was untouchable. Over time, this illusion grew into delusion. He began to believe he had control over life and death. But the reality is, when a human being forgets their place as a creation, they begin to imagine themselves creators. This is the sickness of ego, and Namrood suffered from it deeply. Ibrahim, on the other hand, carried divine clarity. His heart was filled with Tawheed, his mind anchored in truth, and his soul connected to Allah. So when he stood before Namrood, there was no fear, no hesitation, and no intimidation. He simply presented the truth with calmness and wisdom. Namrood, trying to prove his false claim to godhood, said he could give life and death. To demonstrate this, he ordered one prisoner freed and another one killed. He thought this act made him equal to the Creator. Ibrahim didn't argue emotionally, he dismantled the argument intellectually. He told Namrood that if he claimed to be God, then he should make the sun rise from the west. This was not just a clever response. It was a divine strike that shattered Namrood's delusion in an instant. Power can silence people, but it cannot silence truth. Namrood had no answer. His authority, guards, army, and throne could not help him. For the first time, he stood exposed, not as a god, but as a helpless human pretending to be one. This moment shows the difference between divine truth and human arrogance. Truth does not need weapons, it only needs clarity. Falsehood collapses when exposed to even a single ray of light, and the way Allah destroyed Namrood is equally profound. It was not a massive army, an earthquake, or a storm, just a tiny mosquito that entered his nose and tormented him until his death. A man who claimed to control the world was brought down by one of the smallest creatures Allah created. This is the ultimate lesson. No matter how powerful someone appears, they remain insignificant before the Creator. Divine truth stands firm, while human delusion eventually destroys the one who carries it. The story of Prophet Ibrahim and Namrood carries a treasure of lessons that are just as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago. These lessons are not meant to be distant history. They are meant to guide the heart, shape character, and strengthen faith in a world where truth is often challenged and falsehood is beautified. One of the most important lessons is that standing for truth may require standing alone. Ibrahim did not wait for society to change before he embraced the truth. He changed himself first, and through that, he influenced the world. Today, many people hesitate to uphold principles because they fear judgment, rejection, or criticism. But his story teaches that truth remains truth, even if the whole world opposes it. Another lesson is that courage doesn't mean the absence of fear. It means acting for the sake of Allah despite fear. Ibrahim has faced pressures from family, society, and powerful rulers, yet he remained firm. In the modern world, people face different forms of fires, stress, anxiety, financial struggles, peer pressure, and temptations. These personal tests may feel intense, but just like the fire of Ibrahim, as they too can become coolness and peace. When one turns to Allah sincerely, hardships are not designed to break us, they are designed to build us, refine us, and elevate us spiritually. The story also teaches us the danger of arrogance. Namrood represents the mindset that success, power, or wealth makes a person self-sufficient. His downfall reminds us that everything we have is from Allah, and everything can be taken away in an instant. No matter how strong someone appears, they are always dependent on the one who created them. Humility protects the heart from destruction, while pride blinds a person to reality. Another powerful lesson is the importance of placing trust in Allah during uncertainty. When Ibrahim has left Hajar and Ismail as in the barren desert, he had no idea how Allah would provide for them. But he trusted completely, and from that trust came miracles that continue to benefit millions. Today, when people feel stuck, confused, or hopeless, they can remember that Allah brings unexpected solutions from places they never imagined. Finally, the story teaches that true success is not measured by worldly status, but by obedience, sincerity, and patience. Legacies are built through faith, not fame. Ibrahim has become one of the most honored figures in history because he consistently chose Allah over comfort, fear, or desire. His life reminds us that when you walk with Allah, you walk with strength, purpose, and a legacy that outlives time. The story of Prophet Ibrahim and Namrood is far more than an ancient narrative. It is a timeless reminder of what true faith looks like when it is tested, challenged, and pushed to its limits. Ibrahim has stood for truth when no one else did, challenged falsehood when others remained silent, trusted Allah when every door seemed closed, and walked into the fire with a heart full of certainty. And every step he took became a lesson for humanity. His life teaches us that real strength does not come from numbers, wealth, or status. It comes from a heart anchored in Tawheed, a soul that refuses to bow to anything but Allah, and a character that remains firm even when surrounded by pressure. On the other hand, Namrood represents everything that destroys a human being: arrogance, delusion, ego, and the illusion of control. His downfall is a reminder that no matter how high a person rises, they remain weak before Allah if their heart is corrupted by pride. His life is a warning, Ibrahim's life is a guidance, and between the two lies a choice every person must make. Today, every one of us faces our own tests, pressures, challenges, loneliness, societal expectations, and internal struggle. But Ibrahim's story reassures us that when you place your trust in Allah, no fire can harm you, no tyrant can overpower you, and no hardship can break you. Allah's help comes in ways you could never imagine, and His protection surrounds those who stand for truth with sincerity. In the end, the legacy of Ibrahim is a call to rise above fear, above doubt, above falsehood, and above the illusions of this world. It invites us to become people of conviction, people of courage, and people who walk through life with the light of Tawheed guiding every step. If we carry even a fraction of Ibrahim's faith in our hearts, we too can turn trials into triumphs, challenges into growth, and moments of weakness into moments of closeness to Allah. His story is a reminder that with Allah by your side, you are never truly alone, and your legacy can echo far beyond your lifetime.